what will a property manager do for you? We're going to talk about that right now. What is going on, everybody? My name is Andrew, and on the topic of property management, if you've been thinking of working with a property manager, we break down the responsibilities of a property manager into 5 main categories, and they are as follows. The first and primary responsibility of property managers is to collect rent. A property manager has to know how to collect rent, has to be good at it, and has to have various methods at their disposal to exercise, whether it's electronic, going to pick up cash if necessary, if they're on some kind of social assistance, to make sure direct deposit is issued and rent goes into the bank account. Now, to what lengths will a property manager go in order to make sure that the rent is collected? Well, they have to go through all standard and legal practices available to them, meaning that they're supposed to call, they're supposed to email, visit the property, knock on the door, ask the tenant when they're going to be paying their rent, and make sure to keep all parties informed and do proper accounting in order to make sure that the rent collection process is being taken care of. There are systems that a property manager can use, including various softwares that will help them with this rent collection process. But now the second responsibility they have is to make sure to coordinate things like maintenance. Properties, it doesn't matter whether they're new or old, they're going to need some kind of maintenance. The property manager needs to be able to inspect what's wrong, figure out a solution, and employ it within a reasonable budget. And the third responsibility, which I also think is extremely important, is tenant placement, meaning that the property manager has to ensure that there's a continuation of a tenancy at the property. So if one tenant is moving out, the property manager has to figure out a way to make sure that there's a new tenant coming in. And within that actually comes a whole array of responsibilities that you need to be aware of, especially when it comes to the vetting process, showing the property, preparing the property for rent, and making sure that the previous tenant is moving out in a seamless way so that there's no issues when the new tenant moves in. In fact, there is so much involved in tenant placement that it is practically its own industry, which is why a lot of property managers do not include tenant placement as part of the base property management fees. You want to do the tenant placement perfectly, because if you start things off the right way and you find a good tenant, everything else will be easy. Just make sure to do the tenant placement properly. Now, the fourth responsibility is a little more routine, but property managers are expected to visit properties as needed, if needed, to ensure that the property is in good standing order. Because the whole thing is that a lot of landlords or real estate investors will hire property managers to be present, and a lot of property managers, for some reason, are not present. They don't even visit the properties. And sometimes it dawns on me and makes me wonder, why are you hiring somebody who is not visiting your property when you are hiring somebody because you can't visit your property? You need somebody to be there and be able to go to the property when you as a landlord cannot. And now the fifth responsibility we're going to talk about falls into basic but yet general administration and coordination and communication, sending out notices, giving out emails, doing any kind of paperwork, some basic and fundamental accounting, and they should be sending you basic reports so that an investor can reconcile this with the accounting of their property. So those are the 5 things that property managers need to be doing for you. But now I want to touch on something that I think is important here. It's the different types of property managers that you can hire. I like to break things down to 3 classifications by which you can go about hiring: the lightweight property managers, the heavyweight property managers, and then of course property management companies. So a lightweight property manager is going to be generally lean in their operation. This just means that the expectations are extremely clear. They're usually quite strong in administration and the rent collection process and ensuring that everything on paper is working as it should. They're going to contract everything out to ensure that your property can function as needed. And they're generally quite affordable. Now, for the heavyweight property managers, these are usually people who are a little bit more involved, and they often come from one of the professional backgrounds involved in those responsibilities, where let's say they're a realtor and they also are very good and strong when it comes to tenant placement, or they may be somebody who has worked in maintenance and construction. They cost more, but they're definitely going to be way more effective at handling troublesome properties. But now I want to talk about property management companies. They're going to be a little more systemized and a little more rigid, and these guys are generally going to be good at managing certain types of properties that they specialize in. For example, if a company is managing specifically student rentals and they have systems for that, and they have infrastructure, property managers, accountants that knows how to deal with this specific thing, they will be really good with that. And if you hire them to also manage your single family, they may not be as good at that. So if you want to know more about how you can hire a property manager, we actually have an exclusive network of property managers that we train that we can refer to you depending on your property management needs. We're going to leave some information about us in the description below, as well as a way to contact us. Make sure to like us, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you on the next one.